In a world where one wrong turn can change everything, sometimes destiny has a way of correcting our mistakes. This is the story of Maya Torres, a pizza delivery driver struggling to make ends meet in Los Angeles, and Khalid Al-Rashid, a once powerful CEO who lost his empire overnight. What begins as a simple delivery error becomes a collision of two broken lives, leading to discoveries that will shake the foundations of wealth, power, and justice in America's most exclusive neighborhood. Before we dive into this incredible story, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? We love connecting with our community around the world. And if you enjoy stories that keep you on the edge of your seat, hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss our next gripping tale. Trust us, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Now let's begin. The rain hammered against the windshield of Maya Torres's Honda Civic as she squinted at the GPS on her cracked phone screen. It was 11:30 on a Tuesday night in late October, and the streets of Bel Air were a maze of winding roads and towering hedges that all looked identical in the darkness. The pizza box on her passenger seat was getting cold, and she was already 20 minutes late for this delivery. Maya was 26 years old, with dark circles under her brown eyes that told the story of someone working 3 jobs to keep afloat. Her black hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her red Primo Pizza uniform was wrinkled from a 12-hour shift. She'd been delivering pizzas for 8 months now, ever since she'd dropped out of UCLA's nursing program when her mother's medical bills became too overwhelming to manage while studying full-time. The GPS announced she'd arrived at her destination, but Maya stared in confusion at the 2 massive iron gates standing side by side on the dark street. Both properties looked equally imposing. Both addresses were partially obscured by overgrown ivy, and in the pouring rain, she couldn't make out the numbers clearly. She grabbed the receipt, 1847 Celestial Drive. The gate on the left had what looked like an 8, but the rain and shadows made it impossible to be certain. Making a split-second decision, Maya pulled up to the left gate and pressed the intercom button. Static crackled, but no voice responded. She waited 30 seconds, then pressed again. Still nothing. The gate, however, stood slightly ajar, not fully closed. That settled it for Maya. She pushed it open just wide enough to slip through with the pizza box held over her head as makeshift rain protection, and hurried up the long driveway. The mansion before her was breathtaking even in the storm. It was a modern architectural masterpiece, all clean lines and floor-to-ceiling windows, easily 10,000 square feet. But something felt off. Most of the windows were dark, and the landscaping looked neglected, with overgrown bushes and leaves scattered across the marble entrance. For a house this expensive, probably worth $20 or $30 million, the lack of maintenance was strange. Maya rang the doorbell, shivering as rain soaked through her uniform. No answer. She rang again, then knocked loudly. Just as she was about to give up and call her manager, she heard movement inside. Footsteps approached, slowly, deliberately. The door opened just a crack, and a man's voice, accented and rough, spoke from the darkness inside. "I didn't order any pizza." "This is 1847 Celestial Drive, right?" Maya asked, holding up the receipt to the crack in the door. "This is 1847, but I ordered nothing." Maya's heart sank. She was already on thin ice at Primo Pizza after being late twice last week. "Sir, I'm so sorry. I must have the wrong house. Do you know if there's another?" The door opened wider, and Maya found herself looking at a man who stopped her mid-sentence. He was tall, probably in his early 40s, with sharp Middle Eastern features, a strong jawline covered in several days of stubble, and dark, intense eyes that seemed to carry the weight of the world. He wore expensive-looking gray sweatpants and a white t-shirt that had probably cost more than Maya's entire outfit, though both were wrinkled as if he'd been sleeping in them. His black hair was disheveled, and he had the appearance of someone who had once been meticulously groomed but had stopped caring. "The other 1847 is next door," he said, his accent placing him somewhere in the Gulf states, possibly Saudi Arabia or the UAE. The developer numbered them identically. Stupid American system. There was bitterness in his voice, though not directed at Maya. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry for disturbing you," Maya stammered, already backing away. "I'll just wait." The man stepped forward into the light spilling from the entryway, and Maya noticed his bare feet on the cold marble. "How much is the pizza?" "Sir, you don't have to." "How much?" $22.50. The man reached into his pocket and pulled out a wallet that looked like it cost more than Maya's car. He opened it, stared inside for a moment, then looked up at her with an expression that was hard to read, pride struggling with desperation. He pulled out a crisp $50 bill and handed it to her. "Keep the change. I'll take the pizza." Maya hesitated. Something about this whole situation felt surreal. This man, in this mansion, clearly alone,
clearly troubled, buying a pizza he hadn't ordered from a delivery driver who'd come to the wrong house.
"Are you sure? I can still deliver it next door and—" "I'm sure," he cut her off, taking the pizza box from her hands. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Maya saw something in his gaze that she recognized from her own mirror. Exhaustion, defeat, and a desperate attempt to maintain dignity in the face of circumstances spiraling out of control. "Thank you," he said quietly, and began to close the door. Maya turned to leave, but something made her stop. Maybe it was the social work classes she'd taken at UCLA. Maybe it was the memory of her own mother sitting alone in their apartment after Maya's father left, pretending everything was fine while falling apart inside. Maybe it was just human instinct. "Sir?" she called out before the door closed completely. It opened again, just a crack. "Yes? Are you okay?" The question hung in the rain-soaked air between them. The man was silent for a long moment, and Maya wondered if she'd overstepped. But then his expression softened slightly, the hard edges of his face relaxing just a fraction. "No," he said simply, "but thank you for asking. No one has asked me that in a very long time." "Do you want to talk about it?" The words tumbled out before Maya could stop them. "I'm sorry. That's probably inappropriate. I should go." "You're very kind," the man said, and there was genuine surprise in his voice, as if kindness was something he hadn't experienced recently. He seemed to consider something, then opened the door wider. "It's cold and raining. Would you like to come in for a moment? Dry off?" Every safety instinct Maya had screamed at her to politely decline and leave. She was alone, in an unfamiliar neighborhood, with a strange man in an empty mansion. But there was something in his eyes that wasn't threatening. It was broken. And Maya had spent enough of her life around broken people to recognize when someone needed help. "Just for a minute," she heard herself say. "I have more deliveries." She didn't have more deliveries. Her shift was actually over, but it felt safer to say it. The man nodded and stepped aside, allowing her into the most spectacular foyer Maya had ever seen. The entrance was 2 stories tall, with a floating marble staircase that seemed to defy physics. Modern art hung on the walls, pieces that looked like they belonged in museums. But like the exterior, something was wrong. There were rectangular shadows on the walls where other paintings had clearly once hung. The furniture looked sparse, as if rooms had been partially emptied. "My name is Khalid," the man said, closing the door behind her. Khalid Al-Rashid. The name hit Maya like a physical blow. She'd heard it before, seen it in headlines. Khalid Al-Rashid had been one of the most successful tech investors in Los Angeles, a venture capitalist who'd made his fortune backing startups that became household names. He'd been featured in Forbes, TechCrunch, and the Wall Street Journal. There had been photographs of him at galas, shaking hands with celebrities and politicians. But that had been 2 or 3 years ago, and then the coverage had stopped abruptly. Maya had been too busy surviving to follow the story, but she remembered the headlines about some kind of scandal, allegations, a company collapse. "I'm Maya," she managed to say. "Maya Torres." Khalid walked through the foyer into a massive kitchen that looked like something from an architecture magazine. Stainless steel appliances, marble countertops, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking what was probably a spectacular view in daylight. He set the pizza box on the island and opened it, the smell of pepperoni and cheese filling the empty space. "Would you like some?" he offered. "I have paper plates somewhere." "No, thank you. I'm okay." Khalid took a slice and bit into it, and something about the action seemed to break down a wall in him. He let out a long breath, as if he'd been holding it for days. "This is the first food I've eaten in 48 hours, he admitted. "I've been avoiding going out." Maya leaned against the counter, maintaining distance but present. "Why?" "Because everyone in this city thinks I'm a thief and a liar," Khalid said matter-of-factly, taking another bite. "And they're half right. I am a liar. I've lied to myself for 2 years, but I'm not a thief, Miss Torres. I'm a fool who trusted the wrong person." The story came out slowly at first, then faster, as if a dam had broken. Khalid had built Al-Rashid Ventures from nothing, turning a small inheritance from his father in Dubai into a $200 million venture capital firm. He'd had the Midas touch, investing in artificial intelligence, clean energy, and biotech companies that exploded in value. He'd moved to Los Angeles 10 years ago, built this mansion, married an American woman named Victoria, and became part of the city's elite social circle. Then, 3 years ago, he'd brought on a partner, a charming American investment banker named Webb, who had connections throughout Silicon Valley and Wall Street. Marcus had seemed perfect. Harvard-educated, well-connected, and hungry to build. Together, they'd raised their largest fund yet, $400 million from wealthy families, pension funds, and international investors. "Marcus handled the accounting," Khalid explained, his voice heavy with regret. "The operational side. I focused on deal sourcing, due diligence on the companies. It was supposed to be a partnership where our strengths complemented each other. For 2 years, everything seemed perfect. Our returns were excellent. Our investors were happy. We were planning to raise an even larger fund. What happened? Maya asked, though she could already sense the betrayal coming. What happened is that Marcus Webb was running a Ponzi scheme using our fund, Khalid said bitterly. He was inflating returns, creating fake investment reports, using new investor money to pay returns to old investors. Classic fraud, and I was too blind to see it because I trusted him. We were friends. Our families vacationed together. I was at his daughter's wedding. Khalid set down his pizza slice, his appetite apparently gone despite his earlier hunger. The SEC came to our office on a Wednesday morning, 27 months ago. They seized everything: computers, files, bank records. Marcus was arrested that afternoon, and he paused, his jaw tightening. I was named as a co-conspirator. The government claimed I had to have known, that it was impossible for me to be ignorant of what was happening with my own firm's finances. But you didn't know? Maya asked. I didn't know, Khalid confirmed, meeting her eyes directly. I swear on everything I hold sacred, I didn't know. But that doesn't matter in court, apparently. Intent is irrelevant when the damage is this severe. $70 million was missing from the fund. $70 million that belonged to people who trusted us. Retirees, university endowments, a children's hospital foundation. He walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows and stared out at the rain. Marcus disappeared. Turns out he'd been siphoning money to offshore accounts for months before the scheme collapsed. The authorities tracked him to Brazil, but Brazil won't extradite him. He's living in Sao Paulo, probably on a beach, while I face the consequences of his crimes. That's not fair, Maya said quietly. Life rarely is, Miss Torres. Khalid's reflection in the window looked haunted. The legal fees have consumed everything. I've sold most of my possessions to pay lawyers, settlements, and restitution to investors. This house is all I have left, and it's leveraged to the maximum. The bank will foreclose in 6 weeks. My wife left me 18 months ago, took our daughter back to Connecticut. She believed the prosecutor's narrative that I was complicit. Most of my friends did too. But you were found innocent, right? Maya pressed. If you didn't do anything wrong, the criminal trial ended in a hung jury, Khalid interrupted. 10-2 for acquittal, but not unanimous. The government decided not to retry me, but in civil court, he trailed off, shaking his head. Civil court has a lower burden of proof. The investors sued me personally, claiming negligence, breach of fiduciary duty. They won. The judgment was for $93 million. My lawyers tell me I should declare bankruptcy, but my pride, he laughed bitterly. My foolish, stupid pride won't let me. In my culture, in my family, bankruptcy is shameful. A man pays his debts. Maya felt a complex tangle of emotions. Here was a man who had lived in unimaginable wealth, who had lost it all, who was clinging to the wreckage of his former life in this giant, empty mansion. Part of her, the part that struggled to pay rent, that had watched her mother's health deteriorate because they couldn't afford better care, wanted to feel satisfied at his downfall, the rich finally getting what they deserved. But the larger part of her, the part that had chosen nursing because she wanted to help people, felt only sadness. What will you do? She asked. When the bank takes the house? I don't know, Khalid admitted. I've been sitting in this empty house for weeks, paralyzed. I wake up every morning and think, how did I get here? How did my life become unrecognizable? I was supposed to be smart, successful. I built something from nothing. And now I have less than nothing. I have debt that will follow me to my grave. He turned from the window and looked at Maya with an intensity that was almost painful. Do you want to know the worst part, Miss Torres? It's not the money. It's not even the house or the possessions. It's that no one believes me. Everyone I knew, everyone I trusted, they all think I knew about Marcus's fraud. They think I'm a criminal who got away with it on a technicality. My own daughter won't take my calls because my ex-wife has convinced her that her father is a monster. Maya didn't know what to say to that. She was 26 years old, a community college graduate working 3 jobs, standing in a multi-million-dollar mansion with a man who'd lost everything despite having everything. The gulf between their experiences was enormous, yet in this moment, they were just 2 people trying to survive circumstances beyond their control. I should go, Maya said finally, though she was surprised to find she didn't really want to. But, Mr. Al-Rashid, Khalid, I don't know if this helps. But I believe you. Khalid looked at her sharply. Why? You don't know me. I don't, Maya agreed. But I've met enough liars in my life to recognize when someone's telling the truth. And you're telling the truth. I can hear it. For the first time since she'd met him, Khalid's expression softened into something that might have been the beginning of a smile. It didn't quite reach his eyes, but it was there. Thank you, Maya. That's more than anyone has said to me in a very long time. Maya pulled out her phone and did something impulsive. She opened her contacts and held it out to him. Put your number in. If you need someone to talk to, Or if you just need someone to deliver the right pizza next time, call me. Khalid stared at the phone as if she'd offered him a lifeline he'd stopped believing existed. Slowly, carefully, he took it and entered his number. When he handed it back, their fingers touched briefly, and Maya felt a strange electric current of connection, not romantic, but human. Two people acknowledging each other's existence in a world that often felt designed to keep people isolated. "I don't know why you're being kind to me," Khalid said as he walked her to the door. "But I'm grateful, more grateful than you can possibly know. Everyone deserves kindness," Maya replied simply, "especially when they've forgotten what it feels like." She stepped back into the rain, which had lightened to a drizzle. As she walked down the driveway, she heard Khalid call out behind her, "Maya, the right house is the one on the right. 1847B. The numbers are on the mailbox if you look closely." Maya laughed despite herself. "Now you tell me." She made the actual delivery to a confused teenager at the correct mansion, who seemed baffled that his pizza was cold and the delivery girl was soaking wet. Maya apologized, refused his offer of a tip since she'd already been paid, and drove back toward her apartment in East LA. But she couldn't stop thinking about Khalid Al-Rashid, alone in that enormous house, eating cold pizza in the dark. The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of shifts at Primo Pizza, her weekend job at a Target in Glendale, and her overnight stocking position at a 24-hour grocery store. Maya had texted Khalid once, just a simple, "Hope you're doing okay, Maya." He'd responded with a brief, "Thank you for checking. I'm surviving." Nothing more. She'd almost forgotten about him when, on a gray November afternoon, her phone rang with an unknown number. She was in her apartment, a cramped studio in Boyle Heights, that she shared with too many cockroaches and paper-thin walls. She'd just woken up from a 3-hour nap between shifts and was drinking instant coffee when she answered. "Hello, Maya? It's Khalid Al-Rashid." His voice sounded different, urgent, stressed in a new way. "Khalid, hi. Is everything okay?" No, it's not okay. Maya, I need help. I know we barely know each other, and I have no right to ask this, but I don't have anyone else I can turn to. Please." Maya sat up straighter, her exhaustion evaporating. "What happened? What do you need?" "I found something," Khalid said, speaking quickly. "Evidence. Proof that Marcus was planning this fraud for years before he even joined my firm. Emails, offshore account records, documents that show he was recruiting me specifically because of my reputation and connections. This proves I was a victim, not a co-conspirator. This could change everything." "That's amazing," Maya exclaimed. "Have you shown your lawyers?" "That's the problem." Khalid's voice dropped lower. "I can't go to my lawyers. I can't go to anyone in my old life because I don't know who to trust anymore. Marcus had connections everywhere, Maya. People I thought were friends turned out to be his associates. There are powerful people who benefited from the fund's collapse, who bought up our investments at fire sale prices. If they know I have this evidence before I can get it to the right authorities." He trailed off, but Maya understood the implication. If the wrong people found out Khalid could prove his innocence, that evidence might disappear, or worse. "Where did you find this evidence?" Maya asked. "In a storage unit," Khalid explained. "Marcus and I had a shared unit where we kept physical records that weren't digitized yet. When everything collapsed, I forgot about it because I was focused on the digital records the SEC seized. But last week, the storage company called about unpaid fees. I went there yesterday and I found a box Marcus must have hidden in the back. It's all there, Maya. Everything." "Okay, so what do you need from me?" There was a pause. "I need you to hold on to it, just for a few days while I figure out who I can trust to take it to. I know it's a huge ask, and potentially dangerous, but where are you?" Maya interrupted. "I'll come get it, Maya. You don't have to." "Where are you, Khalid?" He gave her an address in Culver City, a neighborhood Maya knew vaguely. She told him she'd be there in an hour, threw on clean clothes, and drove across the city, her mind racing. This was insane. She was getting involved in something that was clearly bigger and more complicated than a pizza delivery gone wrong. But something about Khalid's situation had gotten under her skin. Maybe it was the injustice of it all. Maybe it was because she understood what it felt like to be blamed for circumstances beyond your control. Or maybe, she admitted to herself, it was because she'd spent so much of her life feeling powerless, and this was a chance to actually help someone who desperately needed it. The address led to a modest storage facility near the 405 freeway. Maya found Khalid's BMW, dusty and with an expired registration sticker, parked near Unit 247. He was standing outside, holding a medium-sized cardboard box that had seen better days. He looked worse than he had 3 weeks ago. Thinner, more haggard, with deeper shadows under his eyes. "You came," he said, and there was profound relief in his voice. "I said I would," Maya replied, taking the box from him. It was heavier than she expected. "What exactly is in here?" "Printed emails, wire transfer receipts, photographs of documents," Khalid listed quickly. Marcus was old school about certain things. He kept physical copies of everything important, probably as insurance. "There are emails in there where he discusses the scheme with associates, plans for how to recruit me, predictions about how long he could keep it running before collapse. There are account numbers for offshore banks in the Cayman Islands, Belize, and Switzerland. And there's a ledger showing where the money went." Maya's eyes widened. This is huge, Khalid. "I know." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture of stress. "That's why I'm terrified." "Maya, if someone finds out you have this—" "No one knows me," Maya pointed out. "I'm nobody. Just a pizza delivery driver. That makes me the perfect person to hold on to it, right?" Khalid looked at her with an expression of such gratitude mixed with guilt that Maya almost felt uncomfortable. "You're not nobody, Maya Torres. You're the only person in this entire city who looked at me and saw a human being instead of a headline. Don't ever call yourself nobody." Maya felt her cheeks warm slightly. "So, what's the plan? How long do you need me to keep this?" 48 hours, Khalid said. "I'm reaching out to a contact I have at the FBI, an agent who wasn't involved in the original investigation. He's agreed to meet with me privately, off the record. If he verifies the evidence is legitimate, he can help me get it into the right hands without it disappearing into the system where Marcus's people might have influence. But I need to approach this carefully." "Okay," Maya nodded, clutching the box. "I'll keep it safe. Should I?" She was interrupted by the sound of a car engine. Both of them turned to see a black Mercedes SUV pulling into the storage facility. It drove slowly past them, tinted windows making it impossible to see inside. Maya felt Khalid tense beside her. "That's probably nothing," she said, trying to sound reassuring. "Or it's something," Khalid replied quietly. "Maya, you should go, now. Don't tell anyone about this. Not friends, not family, no one. Can you do that?" "Yes," Maya promised. "But how do I reach you if something happens?" "You have my number. Text me when you're home safely." Maya nodded and hurried to her car, placing the box carefully in her trunk under a spare blanket. As she drove away, she checked her rearview mirror and saw Khalid standing alone in the parking lot, watching her leave. He looked small and vulnerable in that moment, despite his height and the expensive watch still on his wrist, probably the one possession he hadn't been able to bring himself to sell. The drive back to Boyle Heights felt longer than usual. Maya kept checking her mirrors, paranoid that the black Mercedes might be following her, but she saw nothing suspicious. When she finally pulled into her apartment complex, a rundown building that desperately needed a paint job, she felt a wave of relief. She carried the box inside, locked her door, and set it on her tiny kitchen table. For a long moment, she just stared at it. Inside this beat-up cardboard box was potentially the evidence that could restore an innocent man's reputation and bring a real criminal to justice. It was the kind of thing you saw in movies, not in real life. Certainly not in Maya Torres's real life. She texted Khalid, "Home safe. Box is secure. Try to get some sleep." His response came immediately. "Thank you, Maya. I mean it. Thank you." Maya made herself dinner, instant ramen with a fried egg, her specialty, and tried to watch TV. But she couldn't concentrate. The box seemed to pulse with significance on her table. Finally, she moved it to her closet, buried it under a pile of winter clothes she rarely needed in LA, and tried to pretend it wasn't there. That night, she worked her overnight shift at the grocery store, stocking shelves and trying not to think about what she'd agreed to do. But every time a car pulled into the parking lot, every time someone walked past her aisle, she felt a spike of anxiety. She was being ridiculous, she told herself. Nobody knew she had the evidence. Nobody knew she even knew Khalid Al-Rashid. But at 3 in the morning, while she was organizing cans of soup, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We know you have something that doesn't belong to you. Smart girls return what they find." Maya's blood ran cold. Her hands shook as she read the message twice, 3 times. Then she immediately called Khalid. It rang 4 times before going to voicemail. She tried again. Same result. She sent a text. "Someone knows. I got a threatening message. Call me ASAP." No response. Maya's shift supervisor noticed her distress and asked if she was okay. She lied. Said she was fine, just tired. But inside, she was panicking. How had anyone found out? Had Khalid been followed? Had someone been watching the storage unit? Was Khalid okay? Or had something happened to him? At 6 in the morning, when her shift ended, Maya drove straight to Khalid's mansion in Bel Air. The sun was just rising, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. The gate was closed this time, and when she pressed the intercom, there was no answer. She called his phone again. Nothing. Maya was about to leave when a neighbor, an elderly woman in a designer tracksuit walking a tiny dog, approached the gate. "Are you looking for Khalid?" the woman asked. She had the perpetually surprised expression of someone who'd had too much cosmetic work done. "Yes," Maya said quickly. "Have you seen him?" "Police were here last night," the woman said, and Maya's heart nearly stopped. "Around midnight, 3 patrol cars. They stayed for about an hour, but then they left. Khalid was fine. I saw him talking to them, but it looked serious." "Do you know what it was about?" The woman shrugged. "Probably something related to his legal troubles. Everyone in the neighborhood knows about the scandal. Such a shame. He used to be so successful, and now—" She trailed off with a sympathetic look that didn't quite reach her Botox-frozen eyes. Maya thanked her and returned to her car, mind racing. Police at Khalid's house, a threatening text to her phone. This was escalating in ways she hadn't anticipated. She drove home, grabbed the box from her closet, and made a decision. She was taking it to the police herself. But which police? Khalid had warned her that Marcus had connections everywhere. What if she walked into the wrong station and handed the evidence to someone who would make it disappear? What if she was putting herself in more danger by coming forward? Maya was sitting in her car outside her apartment, the box on her passenger seat, paralyzed by indecision, when her phone rang. Khalid's number. "Oh, thank God," she answered immediately. "I've been trying to reach you for hours. Are you okay? The neighbor said police came to your house and I got this threatening text and—" "Maya, listen to me very carefully." Khalid's voice cut through her panic, but something was wrong. His accent was thicker, his words clipped. "Where are you right now?" "Outside my apartment." "Khalid, what's going on? Do not go home. Do you understand me? Do not go inside your apartment." "What? Why?" "Because someone broke into it last night while you were at work," Khalid said, and Maya felt her world tilt. "That's what the police were at my house about. Your apartment manager found your door forced open, saw my number on your recent calls, and somehow tracked it back to me. The police thought I might have been involved, that I might be harassing you or something. It took me hours to convince them I was trying to help you, not hurt you." Maya looked up at her apartment building. Her studio was on the 2nd floor, and from the street, she couldn't tell if anything was wrong. But knowing that someone had been inside, searching for the evidence, violated her in a way she wasn't prepared for. "Did they find it?" Maya asked quietly. "The box was in my closet. The police said your apartment was thoroughly searched. Drawers emptied, mattress flipped, closet torn apart. If the box was there, whoever broke in would have found it. Do you still have it?" "It's with me," Maya said. "In my car. I took it to work last night because I didn't want to leave it in the apartment. I guess that saved me." She heard Khalid exhale in relief. "Thank God. Maya, I'm so sorry. I never should have involved you in this. This is my fault." "Don't," Maya said firmly. "Don't apologize for trying to clear your name. We just need to figure out what to do next. My FBI contact can meet today," Khalid said. "This afternoon, actually. Can you bring the box to a public place? Somewhere with security cameras, lots of people? These criminals are bold, but they won't try something in broad daylight in a crowded area." Maya thought quickly. "The Americana at Brand in Glendale. It's a big outdoor shopping center where I work at Target. Tons of security. Always crowded. I know it well." "Perfect," Khalid agreed. "Let me talk to my contact and I'll text you a time and exact location." "Maya, are you sure you want to do this? You can still walk away. Leave the box somewhere and tell me where it is, and I'll handle it from here. You've already done more than anyone could have asked." Maya looked at the box on her seat. Inside was the truth. Inside was proof that could free an innocent man and maybe bring a guilty one to justice. She thought about her mother, who died still believing that the world was fundamentally unfair, that people like them never got justice, never got heard. She thought about how many times she'd felt powerless in her own life. "I'm sure," Maya said. "I'm seeing this through." "Then I'll see you this afternoon," Khalid replied. "And Maya, be careful. Watch for anyone following you. These people have already shown they're willing to break laws to get this evidence. Don't underestimate them." Maya spent the morning driving aimlessly around Los Angeles, making random turns and doubling back to make sure she wasn't being followed. She stopped at a McDonald's in Pasadena for breakfast, a gas station in Silver Lake to fill up her tank, a bookstore in Los Feliz where she pretended to browse. No one seemed to be tailing her, but she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. At noon, Khalid texted, 3 p.m., Barnes & Noble. 2nd floor cafe, table near the window overlooking the courtyard. My contact will be in a blue windbreaker, reading the LA Times. His name is Agent Robert Chen. Maya arrived at the Americana at Brand 45 minutes early. She parked in the structure, took the box with her, and walked around the outdoor shopping center trying to look casual. The Americana was one of LA's upscale retail destinations, designed to look like an idealized version of a small-town Main Street, with a fountain in the center and high-end stores surrounding it. Families pushed strollers, teenagers clustered around the fountain taking selfies, and shoppers carried bags from Nordstrom and Tiffany. Maya felt completely out of place in her Target work clothes, carrying a beat-up cardboard box, but that was good. She blended into the crowd by being unremarkable. She bought a coffee from Starbucks, found a bench where she could watch the entrance to Barnes & Noble, and waited. At 2:45, she saw Khalid arrive. He'd clearly made an effort with his appearance.